Spirit, one God, amen. Let's reset. We're here to be reminded of some very fundamental truths, and I'll run through them, like I said, and then Nermeen will share with us as well. Number one, we're created for relationship. We are not created to be alone. There is a concept, if you've heard of it before, called perichoresis. It's basically this idea of a mutual dance of love within the Holy Trinity. Those of you who've heard of it, I could see you smiling because it's such a beautiful concept. It's this idea that the Holy Trinity himself conveys this dynamic, ever-giving, self-emptying, perfect union of overflowing love. And even the Holy Trinity, after whom we are created, in whose image and likeness, is in perfect harmony. We too are created in that image and likeness to be in relationship with one another. We're also created to be in relationship with one another, person to person. And in that, God created us, he said, let us make man in our own image. And he saw the man was alone and said it would be in favor to create a helpmate. And that's when Eve came along. And what that allowed is the capacity for us as humans to be like God, in that we can have the capacity to extend love, because it's an action, to practice and experience forgiveness or kindness or any self-emptying of oneself, to give kindness, gentleness, love, forgiveness, healing. All of that comes through this dynamic opportunity to be in relationship with one another. Patience. And seeking that authentic relationship is really something, we're called to do, and really we're commissioned to do in the image of the Holy Trinity, by whom we're created. So this is the concept I was saying of perichoresis, our relationships, which are varied and beautiful in any form they come, created to be in relationship with one another and extend the capacity of being like God in our interactions, in our human contact with one another. And also with nature. I think it's really important. We were given responsibility to be in harmony with nature, to literally, as Abuna reminded me, even in the midnight praises in church, to literally be the mouthpiece of creation. When we say, "O sun and moon, glorify the God, let us exalt him," we become the mouthpiece of the clouds and the winds. Praise him and exalt him above all. And so we have a responsibility over the created order to be in relationship with it, and even to extend and find healing when we look to the stars or to the sky, because that too was created to glorify God. And we enter into that relationship, we can experience more of who God is and who he created us to be. But we know that with Adam and Eve, after they were created and put in relationship, they fell and fell away from the Lord. And in doing so, they broke that union. And when that happened, they essentially took their sin and wanted to hide it. They wanted to bury it. They wanted to deny it. Sometimes we do that. And having that unconfessed sin created a rift, a gap, a broken relationship with them and God. But of course, God pursued them and called out and wanted to come to rescue and to heal each them and us. So what's really beautiful is that God touched all parts of creation, nature, human. They say that the incarnation is the reversal of aloneness or loneliness. The incarnation, which is the name of the book written on the incarnation by St. Athanasius, says that the Lord touched all parts of creation and freed and disabused everything from every error, as Paul said, disarming the principalities and powers. He triumphed on the cross in order that no one might be any longer deceived, but might find everywhere the true word of God. So the human being henceforth closed in on every side and seeing everywhere, that is in heaven, in hell, in the human being, the divinity of the order unfolded over the earth, is no longer deceived concerning God, but reveres him alone, and through him rightly knows the Father. Essentially, it says, the incarnation reversed any opportunity for any circumstance, any condition to ever separate us from God. Because even if you feel like you're living in hell, God says, I'm there. And that's the power of the incarnation. So no matter what each one of us this morning, this season, this year, this month is going through, wherever we feel alone in our life, wherever we feel there's a place of darkness that we're hiding, that we're ashamed, that we're just don't want to even look in that direction, we don't want to admit that it's even there, God is there. He went into Hades. Saint David the prophet even says, how long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? Like, he was in despair. He was in that space. But God comes to us no matter the circumstance. The sources of loneliness can be intrinsic, they can be extrinsic. I'm just going to highlight one, main one, and then we'll hear from Nermeen. Loneliness can be, as simple as I feel exhausted in the daily chores of life. I'm exhausted and I feel like no one is helping me. No one sees me. I'm just tired. I feel like I'm bleakly walking a path and I don't even know where my next step is taking me. It could be the loneliness of caring for someone who's really sick, a loved one, an elderly, someone with special needs. It could be the loneliness of injustice in our workplace where we don't even feel like we can open our mouth and be justified in saying something, or we might be cut off. It could be loneliness in our very homes where we're living with other people and feel as farther apart from the very people in our home than anyone who feels like they live alone and actually feel lonely. We can feel loneliness through, maybe struggling with mental health issues, maybe receiving a diagnosis. Loneliness even in our service, in church, where we're going through and serving and feeling like no one's helping, or maybe not sure what we're called to do and if we're following the right path. So loneliness can be very debilitating. And it actually has health issues. It can raise blood pressure, stress hormones, disrupt sleep, increase heart attacks. It's a very serious thing. But the number one concern that we're going to focus on that can lead and contribute to loneliness is unconfessed sin. When we have unconfessed sin, we literally harbor a toxin in our body. Even if the tumor is there and it's not necessarily affecting us, it's not changing our day-to-day life, it's still there. And that unconfessed sin can breed bitterness or resentment or a lack of authentic awareness of who we are. And then we can't look to God face to face because we can't be our full selves. So we're hesitant to be in a state of repentance or true communion with him. So Job is a great figure that we're going to now talk about. And Nermeen, I'm so grateful, is going to share a little bit with us about, she didn't get to where she is today in an easy path. And we're grateful that we can learn from her and along this topic.
Does this work? You're able to hear? Okay. Moura, thank you so much. Moura and I go way, way back, many, many years, and Abuna Mike Suriel, wonderful, wonderful friend for many years. And I want to say something about Moura. I think she's a little Coptic tornado. I see her work her magic. I don't know how. But she does amazing things. So you guys are very lucky to have her in your area. I'd love to steal her from you, but I won't do that. Also, Moura has a gift of explaining, of encouraging, and of talking. I have only the gift of storytelling, so I will be telling you stories along these topics. And of course, the story kind of mirrors Job's story. Job being in a point or in a place that's very difficult, and the people around him only made it worse. They weren't there to help. They were there to tell them how much problems he has, and etc. And of course, we all face that. And of course, in running an organization, I face that as well. I've been told, Nermeen, unless you raise $100,000, you are nothing. In a year at that point, you are nothing. And of course, that year, boy, I worked really hard, and I raised 113,000, and we made sure to let the guy know, that happened. I've been told you will never get registered in Egypt. And again, how do you take that? You just go like, actually, it was an ambassador in Egypt that was telling me this, and I kind of chuckled, and he said, with all due respect, Your Excellency, the women in my family live to 90 years old. I have another 50 years. I will get registration. That was several years ago. And so, we learn from all this. But let me give you a little bit of context to the stories that I will tell you so that you have an understanding. 38 years ago, I came face to face with poverty for the children, poverty and despair. And in my heart, I knew I had to do something. And it was, propelled by the thought of, God, you've done so much for me, I want to do something for you. And thus Coptic Orphans started. The focus is, in Egypt, you're considered fatherless or an orphan if you are fatherless. Again, because it's the father that provides the income, he's the one that keeps the family together. And so the children that we're supporting are fatherless children. Where do we serve them? In their homes. So with the mother, to help the mother raise them. And what do? We support them until they graduate university. So despite the difficulties, despite no income, despite no guidance, despite all of these things, they will graduate engineering and medical school and pharmacist and everything that they're able to do. Where is all this, or how it's done? It's through the church servants, so the local church servants in the local villages. Where are we? Over 900 towns and villages throughout all of Egypt is where we work. And so in all our programs to date, we've touched the lives of over 86,000 children in Egypt. So let me tell you the stories. Only about a month ago, we had a delegation trip to Egypt, and with us they were Americans that were with us, and it was related to the animated film called The 21, about the 21 martyrs of Libya. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It's an amazing, it's only 12 minutes. It tells the story of the martyrs of Libya. So these were the producers and the executive producers. And they finally finished the film. It took them 6 years. Finally finished the film, and they wanted to have the families of the martyrs to be the first to see the film in Egypt. So this is the first public viewing, and they wanted to have the families see it. And so they reached out to us, Coptic Orphans. You guys are in touch with the families. As a matter of fact, the children of the martyrs are in our program, and we're supporting them. It's been 10 years already. So we're supporting them. And, can you arrange this? We said, yes, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that. And so we took them. Also in the trip, it turns out, just see how God works. They said, the actor who plays Jesus on The Chosen, Jonathan Rumi, would also like to come. Is that okay? We, yeah, sure, no problem, yeah. And who are we to say no, And it was so cute because he's walking in Egypt, right? And then a little kid goes, Hawanta Baba Yeshua, are you Jesus Christ? And we're like, no, Shabahu. He just looks like him. Go on. Off you go. And so the Americans are being exposed for the first time to the Coptic Church and the people of Yeah, absolutely. Syrian, of Syrian descent. Yes, exactly. So then, there were two Americans in the van together. We're traveling, and so one asks the other. He says, "Well, how would you describe the Copts?" And so Mandy says, she replies, an American. She replies, "They're a people living with one foot on earth and the other in heaven." And I thought that was powerful, for an American to see that and to comment about that. And it really stuck with me. And it relates so much to this topic of you are never alone. As a matter of fact, you can never be alone. And no matter how much you try, it's not possible, right? And I will tell you how the Lord shows himself in so many ways. He shows himself as an incident, a whisper, a witness, a touch, an appearance. Let's talk about the incident. So many, many years ago, when we just started out Coptic Orphans, and very young, very naive, and I met a bishop. And I ran up to the bishop and I was like, Sayyidina, we're helping children. And we've reached 700 children to date. And then, and I'm like, and we're doing this. And then he says, why are you telling me this? And I was like, for your blessing. And he goes, okay, you have it. It's like, okay, great. And I hop off, whatever. And then someone from that region calls and says, Nermeen, we'd like to have you come and speak. And we're like, yeah. But do you have the bishop's blessing? I was like, yeah, no problem. I got the bishop's blessing. Right? And he goes, well, let me double check, okay? Let me double check. Goes double check, calls me back. He says, the bishop said he never gave you his blessing. Taban, there's one blessing, a general blessing, and then there's the blessing that says come and visit. And there's, all these, of course, I don't know any of this, right? And because he never gave, and I'm like, like this, right? I am devastated. I mean, I'm on the floor for 2 days, from this devastation. And then finally, when I, was awake enough to start fighting with God, it was, look at your employees. Look what they're doing. Are you okay with this? Are you okay with this? Really? Now that I know that blessings have expiration dates, you could have at least told me, and it was just on and on and on like this. But really, I was depressed, for a whole week. And this was the time that I was still working at that time at the IRS, and I had Jessie, my admin. She would go to my house. She would do Coptic Orphans work while I'm at work at the IRS. And then it was before email. So she calls me and goes, oh, Nermeen, really big check. We got a really big check. And I was like, really, Jessie, really? I mean, like the big check that we had gotten was, it was $1,000. And I remember the man's name till this day. We were so impressed with it. We wanted to name a street after this man, right? Because he gave us $1,000. We didn't have any streets, so we named a cabinet, a little drawer, after him. It was the Dr. Emile drawer, right? Because he gave us $1,000, and I was like, "How much, Jessie? How much?" And she goes, and I was like, "What? What, Jessie? Are you saying $4,000? Oh my God, we got a check for $4,000? No. And I was like, Jessie, wait, are you saying $14,000? Are you serious, Jessie? Is that what? No, $14,000. And I was like, okay, Jessie, what's the first number? And I was like, how many zeros? She goes, I was like, 4 zeros? 40,000? Yes! And then I looked up to God, and I said, I got your message. I got your message. Clear as day, he's saying, what have you to do with my employees? You do and continue as you are. I was like, okay, got it. So that was the incident. Let me tell you about the whisper. So we have an office, by God's grace, Coptic Orphans has grown so much that we have an office in Canada, an office in Sydney, Australia. I'm in Australia and traveling, going from home to home and church and presentations and etc. until yani, we kill ourselves, literally. Yani, there's a picture of me all like, and they're like, oh no, I think we've broken her. But anyway, so I think I break them as well because John, the country director, he's going with me everywhere in all these places. He got to the point, and then his car broke down, and then he's got wife and kids and stuff like that. And so there was the one gathering of Shabab that we're going to go to, and he's like, I'm not going to be able to go tonight. And it was, a dinner with kids. And we're like, no problem. We got it covered. There's no problem at all. And so he says, go ahead, you go with Liz. We've arranged Liz is going to take you there and then bring you back home and things like that. I was like, yeah, no problem. So we're there in the middle of the conversation or the dinners and such, and then John shows up. Well, that's unusual. Okay, yeah, that's nice. We figured he might have wanted to say something, but didn't say anything, didn't do anything at all. Okay, and so he goes, well, since I'm here, I might as well take you home because I'm staying at his house. And I was like, yeah, okay, Liz, I'll see you later. We'll see you at the office tomorrow. No problem. We go home. That morning, knock, 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 Nermeen. We have to go to see Liz. He's like, why? She's in the hospital. Why is she in the hospital? She had a car accident last night. I'm like, what? We go to the car to see Liz. And Liz, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Her husband goes, the guy hit the passenger seat. If anybody was in that passenger seat, it would have been lights out for them. And I'm like, I was supposed to be in that passenger seat. So I was like, John, thank you. You saved my life. And he goes, no, you don't know what happened, do you? And I was like, what happened? He says, I'm sitting home, and a nagging feeling, go to the dinner, go to the dinner. And I ignore it, go to the dinner. And it got to the extent, he says, that I actually had to stand up and say, God, what do you want from me? Go to the dinner. So he goes to the dinner, takes me back. I'm not in that passenger seat. I'm like, so at first I was saying, John, thank you for saving my life. And he's like, I didn't, and I was like, okay, John, thank you for listening to God. I really appreciate that you listened to God. A witness. Let me tell you about this one. So in Egypt, we help all these children. We work with all these children, but we also have field coordinators that oversee the volunteer reps that work with all these children. These are the church servants that are working with the children. So the field coordinator, Aida from Asyut, it wasn't too much later after the 2011 revolution, and the streets in Cairo and all of Egypt were not safe. Just plain and simple, the police decided to pull out, whatever happens, happens. It's not a safe place. And so we try to make sure that during daylight, don't be traveling, coming, going, other than daylight. And so Aida went to another village. She met with the volunteer rep, and they went from home to home to home to home, checking on the children, how everything is going, etc. And in Egypt, there's the microbus stop, and the microbus will never go unless the microbus is filled. And so they'll wait and wait and wait. And so Aida is getting on, and the microbus is finally complete so we could go. And then the rep goes, oh, but Aida, there's one more family. She says, but it's getting late. And she goes, oh, but it's just that one more family that I wanted you to see. And then the driver's like, Yalla ya madam, let's go. He finally got the full amount. And the rep goes, Aida's like, will they be really upset? And she goes, yeah, they would be really upset if you don't come. And she goes, okay, sorry, I'm gonna have to go. And the taxi, the microbus driver is like annoyed, whatever. They go and they visit this family, lovely family, and the children are doing so well, and etc. And it is getting later, so she's a bit anxious, but thankfully she goes back to the microbus, stop, rides the next microbus, and as they're traveling down the road, the Muslim driver, he's driving, and he goes, look there, ya madam, the accident over there, that was supposed to be, that's the one you were gonna ride on. أصل أنتم ممسوحين الركب. I'll translate that in English. You all are known as the anointed knees. Okay, isn't that an interesting phrase? We've never, most of the Egyptians have never heard of such a thing. And I kept asking, what does anointed knees mean? It's the mayrun that we are anointed with, our joints. And so we are known as those who are anointed, and therefore that's why God protects us. The Muslims say that about us. We didn't know. I didn't know about this. Exactly. So I don't think he even knows that we're anointed, but it's a saying that they have. أصل أنتوا ممسوحين الركب. They don't know what that means, but it's ممسوحين الركب. Exactly. So that was a witness. Let me tell you about a touch. So one of our volunteer reps, because they have to visit the homes and they have to fill out paperwork and they have to do so much, he said, Nermeen, I had decided to quit. And I was like, so, and then what happened? He says, so I decided I'm going to go to that one last meeting. I'm going to give him all the paperwork. I'll take that one last check that I'm going to spend the money on the children, and then that's the end. I said, then what happened? He goes, well, I was going home, and in Egypt, the train tracks, and to go to the other side, you have to go all the way up the stairs, and all the way across, and all the way down the stairs, and it's hot, and it's whatever. So he said, I decided to take a shortcut. I jumped down into the train tracks, right? I looked up, I see the train coming straight at me. So I try to move my leg, I can't. I try to move my arm, I can't. And so I say, into your hands I commit my spirit. And then I remembered, the check of the kids is in my pocket. And right then, that's the only thing he thought about. He didn't think about his wife or his own kids. All he was worried about was, the check is in my pocket. And he says, just then I felt an arm pull me up and back on the rail, and on the sidewalk, and the train passes. A touch, an appearance. Iman is a woman, a widow, one of the widows that we support. She has young children. One of them is Iman, that's why her name is Iman. This woman, you know, the kind that would wear the galabeya and pants underneath and the veil, her hands very big, thick. She's a farmer woman. And we're asking her about her children, how's it going? Well, Iman has done this, and and then when Christ healed me, and then of course there's this, and Christ healed you? Yeah. Yeah, and tell me what happened. She goes, actually it was a clot that was in my leg, and my leg swole to this much. And I was saying, Lord, if I go to the hospital, who's going to buy for my children 2 kilos of tomatoes and 1 kilo of cucumbers? And so I went to sleep. And then Christ came and he said, Ya Iman, do you want to go to the hospital for 50 pounds, to get the injection for 50 pounds, or St. Mary for 20 pounds? And I told him, if I were to go to the hospital, who's going to buy for my children 2 kilos of tomatoes and 1 kilo of cucumbers? The creator of the universe, right? And so he put his hand on my leg, and in the morning, I was fine. Everything was fine. And my brother comes, Yalla ya Iman, we're going to the hospital. ما خلاص يا أخويا المسيح شفاني. No need. Christ has healed me. يا Iman, I got you the عربية مخصوص من البندر. Yalla, specifically from the town. Yalla, let's go. خلاص يا أخويا المسيح شفاني. No need. Christ has healed me. And I was like, how did you know it was Christ? She says, because when he put his hand on my leg, I saw the wound here. And I was like, okay. And what is this about 20 pounds, for Saint Mary? What is this about? And she goes, you see, every year we used to go to the monastery of Saint Mary, me and my husband and the kids. And we would give Saint Mary 20 pounds. But when my husband died, I became very sad, and I decided not to go. And I said, and now, did you go? She goes, yes, you. Did you give her 20 pounds? I gave her 30. So, why this story is so remarkable, what's so remarkable about this story was how unremarkable it was for her. It's the big deal. Of course, Christ will heal me. That is the appearance. That's what it means to have one foot on earth and one foot in heaven. And I want to say, you all are the ones who have one foot on earth and one foot in heaven. And with that, you have a boldness to deal with Christ and deal with heaven. Little Mina, he was like in high school, an orphan child. He had laid his jacket and stuff to play soccer, and with it was the mobile phone. And the mobile phone got stolen. And so the volunteer rep, he goes, Malish, Mina, it's okay, Mina, we'll get you another one. He goes, no. God says he's my father. If he's my father and I'm his son, he gets it to me. He goes, Ayo, Habibi, but we can always get, no, God gets it to me. So then Abuna comes in and he goes, Mina, let me explain. God uses us people to get you the phone, no. God will get it to me, and he'll get me the latest model too. Aren't I his son? Like this. 2 weeks later, the sponsor happens to come to visit Mina, takes Mina, and says, Mina, I want to get you something. Let's go to a mobile store. And he gets his latest model. When you see all of this, and when you experience all these things, then you say, like Job says, my ears had heard of you, the hearing about you, but now my eyes have seen you. And this is what you will be saying, what you will be doing, because you're those people. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank God, because I'm not a good storyteller. And it's beautiful how God, is weaving this message for each of us today, because these are real moments of people who desperately may have felt very alone, maybe even angry, maybe forgotten. And yet, you see how Nermeen, everything she says is with a smile? I love that. It's such a gift, maybe something I can take in. And this is a message for each of us, right? So whether it was Job who felt, forsaken by all and says, I feel lost and homeless, I think this is worth sharing. Henry Nouwen, who's a wonderful author, he meditates on this, He meditates on this idea that when we might feel alone, he says, when we are impatient, when we want to give up our loneliness and try to overcome the separation and incompleteness we feel, too soon we easily relate to our human world with devastating expectations. We ignore what we already know, that no love or friendship, no intimate embrace or tender kiss, no community, commune or collective, no man or woman will ever be able to satisfy our desire to be released from our lonely condition. This truth is so disconcerting and painful that we are more prone to play games with our fantasies than to face the truth of our existence. In other words, he's saying that while, yes, we're created for relationship, and God meets and visits us through one another, through circumstances, through the touch, the witness, the whisper, yes, but that is to meet us in that point of our journey, ultimately to be in communion with him, because he's the fullness of that relationship. And so one of the things we do is often we try to escape from God. So in any of those scenarios, stories that Nermeen shared, there was even an interest to hide, to escape, to distance. And we do the same thing. We distract ourselves, we avoid, whether it's coming to church or picking up a phone or responding to a text or showing up for something or pushing ourselves in a moment where we feel we just want to be alone. And we want to stay in that pit, kind of like, we can look to a lot of examples. I'll just run through a couple quickly. Hagar, you know, the Egyptian slave of Abraham, chosen to bear his first son, thrown out essentially by Sarah into the wilderness, only to be told by the angel, go back. And then she goes back, humiliated. Sarah's jealous of her, resentful of her, living in a home. How awful she might have felt. She's not even a believer. She wasn't even a Hebrew. Only for Sarah then, after she had her son, to tell her, get out again. So what we see here is Hagar, this concubine, literally thrown out into the wilderness with her son, waiting to die. And she looks up to the God, her creator, who she doesn't even know, and says, you are the God who sees. So when we're in that place of loneliness or darkness or feeling overwhelmed, like Hagar, who didn't even have the faith, we can look to God, and if nothing else, I know you see me. It's like Ominna, right? She knew God saw her. That young boy, Mina, God sees me. There's a conviction. If nothing else, I don't know if you're going to help me out of this. I don't know if you're going to change things. I don't know when you're going to show up on the scene and give me, move me in the direction I want to move, but I know you see me. And with Hagar, we can say that. Or, of course, we're not going to watch this. No. No, we're not going to watch it. Just sorry for this, because I want to give you guys time in workshops. Or Jonah, of course, as well. When did he actually come face to face with God? In the deep pit of the whale. He was alone. He felt abandoned. He felt rejected. He felt humiliated. I mean, for a grown man to be swallowed by a whale. And it was there that he found and said, I cried to the Lord because of my affliction, and he answered me. And out of the belly of Sheol, which is hell, I cried, and you heard my voice. He says, in the Psalms, David says, if I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in hell, you're there. So whatever the situations are, the sicknesses, the, detachments in relationships in our life, whatever it is, he is there. And when we look at our desert fathers and mothers, sometimes we think, oh, well, they just escaped the challenges of the world. Why did they go deeper and deeper into the wilderness? Just to get away from everyone, just to not have the distractions? No. They did that because they had a deep hunger and thirst for full communion with God. And what they discovered is what we want to continue to discover and rediscover, which is that the treasure is within us. The kingdom of God is within us. But it takes intentional moments of stillness and pause to discover God within us, like Jonah did when he had nothing else. We don't have to wait till we're so desperate. We don't have to wait till we're so devastated, or we don't have to wait only for those moments. We can delight in fellowship with the Holy Trinity at all times. They didn't go there to escape. They went there because the deeper they went in their communion with God, in discovering how sweet he is, the more they hungered for it. And the more they realized there was more to discover. And so with us, it's the same. But it's a little more challenging for us to do sometimes. Or maybe we just make excuses that it's more difficult. Says, seek my face. When you said, seek my face, my heart said, your face, O Lord, I will seek. Saint Isaac the Syrian says, keep your mind quiet so your heart may speak, and keep your heart quiet so God may speak. It means quieting our thoughts. It means consecrating time with the Lord. It means having unceasing time of prayer with God, which we're going to talk about in the second talk, but also living a life of intentional hungering and thirsting for him. We need to awaken to spiritual consciousness, which is this idea of living with greater awareness of God's presence in our life. Like what Nermeen shared exactly, in those mundane moments, in those moments of questioning, fighting, fight. Like she said, fight with the Lord. Question, battle, cry out, but don't do what we can't do is what Adam and Eve did. Don't hide. Stop delaying to come to him fully, authentically. Come to awareness of him, of his love and his goodness in our life. St. Augustine said, God is closer to you than you are to yourself. I feel like I'm still digesting this from the last time Abuna shared it with us. What does that mean? It means God is already there. He's already there in our thoughts. He's already there in our desires, in our limitations, in our questions, in our doubts. He's already there. So there's nothing to fear. And if we live this life of victory in mind, like we already have the victory. If we understand that, he already paid the price for us. I have been crucified with him. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Then the moments of despair or challenge or loneliness don't overtake me. They don't consume me. They don't get me stuck. Even if I'm stuck for a day or for a little bit, they don't get me stuck to the point of hopelessness. That's the point. Because now it's not my life. If I really live my life surrendered to him, then whatever comes my way, sometimes it's not even something that's attacking me. I think what's more difficult is when something's attacking someone I love. I find that to be an even greater challenge, to trust in God, to wait on God. When you see someone or someone's, in Nermeen's case, when these children breaking, burning your heart, and there's only so much you can do each day. But we say, Lord, I've died, so no matter what takes over, whatever, diagnosis or news or injustice, I'm dead. I'm living in you. You're living in me. You abide in me. And so nothing can put me back into a place of bondage. It can put me down. It can distress me. It can distract me. But I'm going to turn it right back to you and not be overtaken by any kind of sin that would separate me from you. I'm moving from glory to glory. It's a journey. It's an adventure. And have that joy of anticipation. Okay, Lord, where are you going to show up now? How are you going to help me now? You know there's only much I can take. But having that dialogue, exposing that sin and having authentic dialogue. Being around people who are lonely and hopeless kind of breeds a sense of unhappiness, a lack. It strips us of our own sense of a will to move forward, a will to challenge ourselves, a will to be resilient and push through. But being around people who are joyful and grateful and try to acknowledge the difficulties, but see past them the way the eyes of Christ, he's already there. He's already past that circumstance. That life of joy and gratitude, it breeds that and it cultivates that in those around us. He makes everything beautiful in its time. and nothing shall overcome us. So